Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Nancy, don't. Nancy, no, look. Look, there's no one here. See? Ugh, it's that smell again. Oh my God. It's standing right behind you.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show for October the 13th, 2014. I'm Andrew.
And I've got a frog in my throat slightly, so sorry for the cough.
We'll just call you Froggy then instead of Stuart.
Yeah, Froggy in the throat. No, I'm Stuart.
Yeah. And we'll be with you for the next, normally, hour and a half or so. We'll go through, first of all, in this part of the show, we'll have some movie news, the UK box office top 10, and a look at these new cinema releases.
We have dystopian sort of like... A lot of these movies are very much the same as like Hunger Games, etc., but they try to be slightly different from each other with The Maze Runner. Jack O'Connell stars in a small little drama thriller in 71. The spin-off from the clip that you heard at the opening of the show, The Conjuring with Annabelle. You have The Rewrite and a tiny little movie called The Calling. And even though it's released in Scotland...
Can you get the title? Come on. I know I've got it down here in front of me. Can you get it right?
Even though it's released in Scotland, it's not out in the UK, the rest of the UK, so that's England, Ireland and Wales, until the 24th of October. It is Disney's Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
You must have been looking at something there. You were stalling to bring it up, weren't you?
I've written it down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, as well as that, then later on in the show, we'll be going on to our home release section with these new releases on DVD and Blu-ray.
The film that's had its name changed 3 times. It went from All You Need Is Kill to Edge of Tomorrow to now being released on home release in the UK only as Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. Then you have Grace of Monaco, The Other Woman, Open Grave, Road and Kite. And
then we'll be rounding out, as usual, with our look at the TV movies of the week, things coming out, and then give you our recommendation from those films we reviewed as movie of the week. But before that, let's go straight into some movie news.
Okay, then I'll just kick things off with a piece of news that we both of us didn't write down, which I'm surprised at. But Paul Feig, who is known for comedies, including the Bridesmaids series, is now going to be the director of Ghostbusters 3, and the Ghostbusters are no longer going to be male. They're going to be females. And by the sounds of it, Melissa McCarthy and a few other cast from the Bridesmaids series are going to be cast in the roles of the male protagonists, but female.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, see, the part which annoys me is not the female side, because they have done that in the comic books. There have been female Ghostbusters. I'm fine with that because it's an interesting take on the Ghostbusters series. And in this way, they're rebooting the franchise but not doing what a normal series normally does by rebooting it by doing exactly the same as the previous. They're trying to do something a little different. The annoying part is Paul Feig. I don't like his films. I wasn't a fan of Bridesmaids. I don't like the way he directs.
I don't so much have a problem with Bridesmaid because of the directing. I have a problem with Bridesmaid because of, well, let's put it simply, everything else.
Yeah. But it is under the guise of a director. A director tells the actors and actresses how to do their roles, and so they have to take blame in some instance. And Paul Feig, I don't think he's a director who can handle comedy very well, even though that's what he does. And he could surprise us. You never know. This could be the film which turns his fortunes around. I'm not holding my breath, though.
Could he maybe do good horror then, not good comedy?
I don't know. Comedy and horror are really difficult to do. They are two. I think they're the two genres in films which are really hard to do. Horrors because you need the scare there, you need an impact there, rather than just rely on loud bang sort of like noises. You need something there to scare the audience. Comedy, You need something there to make people laugh. If people are not laughing, you're not succeeding. So I think they are the two hardest genres to get right. Melding them together, though, oi. That's all I have to say. Oi.
Okay.
According to Variety, Jim Henson's company is working on sequels to Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal, and also, from what I've just seen there, Fraggle Rock. No details were released about. No details were released about any of the projects.
Well, it can't be a sequel to Fraggle Rock. They haven't done a Fraggle Rock film.
Oh, I know that I wasn't including that. I was just they are rebooting Fraggle Rock.
Oh, okay. Oh god, that's bringing back memories now of that. But yeah, I mean, I love Labyrinth. I just recently got the Blu-ray, and it's fantastic to see that again and love it. And I like Dark Crystal. I haven't watched it for a long time, I have to admit, but I do remember it's one of those films. It's one of those films growing up you see, and it's kind of like a wow, that's dark for a kid's film, but it's like really, really impressive, and it's one of those films that it makes you take notice.
Exactly. It's got to be really hard to do sequels to Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal, though.
Well, they get David Bowie back again, and will they get Jennifer Connelly back for Labyrinth?
I don't know. It'll be really strange if they do. Fraggle Rock is much more easier because it was a TV series, and so it's slightly more easier to reboot Fraggle Rock. But Labyrinth...
Rock.
Yeah, I was singing along to the theme tune. Now the theme tune is stuck in my head. But making a sequel to The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, good luck. Next piece of news is The Hollywood Reporter reporting that Martha Marcy May Marling director Sean Duncan is set to bring classic TV programme Little House on the Prairie to the big screen for some pictures. No casting has been announced yet.
I'm sorry, but it's just...
Yeah, but getting the director of Martha Marcy May Marlene to do it.
Yeah, that's got to be the most warped thing. Sorry, my head actually hurts from doing that. That's just warped. Getting a person doing a homicidal, psychotic characters thing that basically was a homicidal, psychotic kidnapping
cult
version
movie.
of cult movie of Little House on the Prairie, and actually doing a proper oh no, that family's going to be so disastrously warped.
Yeah, if that's the case, I want to see his version of the Waltons as well then, because that would be funny to see. But
you couldn't do the Waltons like that, because it would be end of the night. There'd just be one light on in the house, and everyone would be in the same bed, sharing the bed.
Or instead of saying goodnight to each one of them, all you hear is a shotgun noise, and then the person just walking out the front door with blood just dripping from them.
We have that already in one of our films coming up tonight.
And final piece of news is, according to EW, Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios are in delicate preliminary conversations about an Avengers/Spider-Man crossover film. A source claims that in the coming years could see Peter Parker join his Marvel allies.
Now, this genuinely does excite me, because I am a fan of the Marvel movies, and I am aware of the whole ownership, who owns what for film properties and stuff like that, and I think it's good if this can happen, because it needs to happen, because the Marvel Universe, the whole thing of where they've done the films, it's a shame to not have the characters in there that were in the comics, because of the fact that they're on loan basically to another studio. So there should be some way that they can do that, and the thing is, I was talking with people about this, especially on Facebook, about the fact of that these were all written up years ago in contract, and they're just being basically extended, because every time they make a film, it's like a renewal of the lease automatically. And it just really seems that whoever wrote the contracts originally had no idea of, what was good interest and stuff, and planned it, and really sort of took advantage of a naive property like Marvel at the time, who've now got their own studio.
Yeah, it's just... Will we actually see it happening? Depends on how the talks go down with Sony and Marvel. I think they've been actively speaking to each other for the last few years. There must have been some talks happening between the both studios.
There have been, for sure, because we know that there was plans to have, when you see New York in Avengers, they were going to have Oscorp Tower there with the same design, but the building design wasn't done and ready in time for them to do the effects. So it was going to be in the background of the city shots you saw when you saw Stark Tower, but it never happened. And I do hope it happens. The one thing I hope as well is they're going to have continuity. They're going to have it happen and have Andrew Garfield play the role.
Yeah, do you think, though, with something like a crossover between the Avengers and the Spider-Man universe, it's about time we see alternate versions of Avengers? So, you've got bad guys in the Avengers universe, you've got bad guys in the Spider-Man universe, and we started to see this in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the fact that there is more than one bad guy. There is a few bad guys going to go up against Spider-Man. Do you think it would be better if there is going to be a crossover one, we'll have more than one bad guy, so there's like 4 or 5 bad guys up against them rather than just one super evil, like a Loki character?
I think they'll need to do that, really. I mean, well, obviously, though, we've got coming up, we have the whole thing of Thanos in that, but that's going, years ahead now, because that's going to be the next one after Avengers. But I think they'll need to do that, because otherwise it's going to become very a sort of a thing of always having someone who's this big and bad, one person, that it needs a whole team to take him on.
Yeah, because
the whole thing with the Spider-Man series is that they're now going to do the Sinister Six movie, which is going to have the 6 villains. So, I mean, I don't see why they shouldn't do it. Just do it properly and work it out right and write it well.
Yeah, it's about time we saw that, because, like you said, it is becoming a bit stagnant, just having the one, like, super evil and then maybe a sidekick to the super evil person. It has worked, and it does work, but it'd be nice and interesting to see multiple bad guys going up against multiple superheroes.
Okay, a couple of pieces of news that I have. First off, that according to the website Deadline, writer-director James DeMonaco will be returning to work on a third Purge movie. In a recent interview with the site, he stated, "I never imagined that The Purge would become the phenomenon it has become, and I'm thrilled to continue my collaboration with Blumhouse, Sebastian Lemercier, Platinum Dunes, and the great team at Universal in building The Purge into a worldwide franchise."
Yeah, well, Jason Blum, in an interview when he was doing the press junkets for The Purge, Anarchy, turned around and says they've got multiple ideas for The Purge, and I really hope that this is the idea that I want to see, which is the Purge prequel, a prequel to the first Purge film, where we see the first ever Purge happening, because I would like to explore that story.
Well, I'd like the idea that this seems to be sort of a franchise that's building and building, but never becoming the whole big thing and going, oh, we need a big budget to do a sequel. It's not. It's the first. Those two have been done on, as much as the second one was done on a bit bigger budget, because it did more. It went out into the world. It didn't just stay in a one location. And I hope they keep that up, because it's kind of like, it reminds me of Jeepers Creepers, which was originally started out as an idea to try and make 10 good films for $10 million each. So over 10 years, $100 million over that time, and then they've done 2, and then they stopped it. They didn't bother with going on with the third one. And it seems like it's that kind of thing, because the way you can do a film now with a horror film is to actually make for quite a little amount of money to get a lot more on the screen if you're done creatively. And The Purge is showing there is that horror thriller aspect that can be done.
Yeah, if you look at Blumhouse Productions, their most expensive film was The Conjuring, which cost around about $20 million to make, but it brought in over $300 million worldwide. Yeah, that's an insane amount. You look at Annabelle, which I'm going to review a little bit later on. It's got a budget of around about $8 million. It's already gone past $100 million in the US alone.
Yeah, so I mean, it shows that if you can do it and you can do it right, that it can be profitable, which is also a good thing, because it means you can get your finances, you can get funding, and you can actually put together something good and get out something that's good there, not something that looks terrible and goes straight to video.
Yeah.
Last piece of news is that William Shatner sparked rumours with a posting on his Twitter account at William Shatner, stating simply last week, "I'm back." Later on, it's confirmed he will be returning as Captain James Tiberius Kirk in the next Star Trek movie, to be directed by Roberto Orci, which will supposedly see him share screen time with his younger counterpart, played by Chris Pine.
Yeah, I don't care, because I've done that with Spock in the last 2 films, and so it was inevitable that it was going to happen with Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wish they hadn't done it with Spock in the last film. I'm not.
Yeah, we saw it in the first one.
Yeah, And I don't think they're going through and retreading old ground. Don't do that. Go and do something new. Don't dredge up things from the old series and everything. Do something new. Come up with something new. I want to see the further adventures. I don't want to see the repeated adventures. Thank you very much.
See, because when I first watched Star Trek Generations, I knew nothing about it. Because it was down at the times when we didn't have the internet. Well, the internet was out there, but very few people actually had it. So it was when we learned about movies, it was reading it in magazines or seeing adverts or watching a review on TV. And so Star Trek Generations, I knew it was a Star Trek film. I knew I was eager to go and see it. And I knew it had Captain Kirk in it. When you saw Picard pop up in that film, I was shocked. To see two captains from the Star Trek TV series in one film, I was shocked. And that was the impact that I wanted in that film. I don't care now to see old characters from old Star Trek series in any of the newer stuff. I'm exactly the same as you. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I want to see a different version of it.
So that's this. I mean, it's kind of them just retreading. I mean, they already retreaded things with the last one, and yet it screamed really lack of any originality, lack of any story writing skill.
Yeah.
That's it for the news. Sorry, yes. Going on to now the UK box office top 10, which will start at number 10 with Pride.
Yeah, it's a brilliant British comedy drama which is about the miners' strike in 1984 and about a group who's trying to raise money for them, but ultimately they're getting shunned because of the group that they are. It's played brilliantly in the US, surprisingly. It's done fantastic for itself. I'm so glad as well. In my opinion, it is the best British movie this year. I think it is, because I'm guessing you're like Lockmore or whatever, but no.
Well, I'm very struggling between that and the film at number 5, which we'll get to in a minute. I do think it's very, very good, but I think it's very great. And if it wasn't for the film at number 5, then I would say yes, absolutely, it's the best British film this year. Number 9, still hanging in there, although annoyingly my local cinema has just stopped showing it this week. When I think one of my friends wants to actually go and see it, Guardians of the Galaxy.
My cinema is still showing it. And they are officially releasing an official dancing Groot in a flower pot. What you see at the end of the film, they are officially releasing one of them in time for Christmas. So this pop company who make the cartoony kinds of one are probably going to be really annoyed the fact that there is going to be a proper official dancing Groot released. I'm going to be buying both.
Yeah. Number 8 is A Walk Among the Tombstones,
which I didn't like at all. It's a movie that's trying to be more like 8mm rather than what Liam Neeson normally does in films like Taken, and it's just dark for darkness' sakes. It's a pointless film. It's very boring, and it overstretches its runtime.
I quite enjoyed it, and I did find the dark aspect of it a bit sort of very, very sort of discerning, but I liked it, enjoyed it. But I do think that it's a problem casting Liam Neeson in that role, because it is basically retreading the same thing he's done for sort of the last 3 films he's been in, and they could have really gone with someone else just to try and edge themselves away from that.
I'm slightly distracted by the comment in the live chat, because by the looks of it, you're going to have to be buying an official Dancing Groot as well.
Yeah, I know. I've had that request made of me already about 70 times. Number 7 is a new entry for Dolphin Tale 2.
Completely inoffensive movie. Sometimes when you want to go to the cinema, you want to see something that will not try to push your buttons or try to do something where it's lots of explosions or lots of gore or things like that, tries to challenge you. It's a very simple film. It's more akin to what Disney used to be really good at doing in the 70s and 80s with their live action films. It's more like that, and it's a very simplistic film. It's a movie that, when I went to the cinema to see Annabelle, a lot of kids were just coming out of seeing Dolphin Tale too, and they were going, I want to go back in and see that again. They were coming out with smiles on their faces, because it's nothing special at all. But it is one of those movies which is akin to a warm hug. Where if it's really horrible outside, if somebody gives you a bit of a hug, or you walk into a nice, comfortable, warm room, it's one of those movies.
Okay, and number 6 is a new entry for the Bollywood remake of Night and Day, Bang Bang.
Yeah, Night and Day was bad, so do I want to see a Bollywood remake? From what I've heard of it, Bang Bang's even worse.
It's even worse, yeah.
Yeah. Is that possible?
Everything's possible when it comes to how bad a film could be. And
Especially
number 5
Bollywood.
is What We Did on Our Holiday.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, this was the film that I was talking about that I really did like it. It was another British film that I think gave Pride a run for its money, purely on the fact that it's a comedy that's just so spot on with the characters and the way they behave and such. And it's not a true historical thing like Pride is, but it just has so much continuously going through it, and then it kind of does this weird thing where it changes things, but it kind of loses its way a bit, but then it's funny, and it's just odd, but really funny moments, especially early on with you have this family of these 3 kids and their parents played by Rosamund Pike and David Tennant, and the sort of the 5 of them in the car bits there are brilliant, and then a couple bits later on when they reach his family up in Scotland, they're driving from London to Scotland, and the moments there with them and Ben Richards and Billy Connolly that are genuinely just hysterically funny, and they feel so naturally and real. They don't feel forced, is the thing that's interesting. And number 4 is The Box Trolls,
which it's like us worst film, but that's not to say it's a bad film, because it's not. It's a brilliantly animated stop motion film. You need to steer until the end credits. Watch the end credits, because it gives you a glimpse of how these movies are made and how much time and effort these people go through just to create what you see on screen. A movie like this isn't as simple as a CGI film that you see from Disney and Pixar. Yes, they go through the process of around about 4 years to get that kind of thing together. But this is them taking... A day is about a second or 5 seconds of film. It is that laborious in a way. The fact that they have to move the feet or the hands or the facial expression in minute detail to get what you see on the screen. So you admire any company that does that kind of thing, and that's why Leica has only made 3 films, Coraline and Paranorman are the other 2 films that they made. So it's beautiful to look at. It's very entertaining. It's got just the right elements of scares mixed in with humour, and it's enjoyable.
And number 3 is The Equalizer.
Pass.
I wish I could have said that, because to be honest, I really dislike this film because of the fact I know the original series. I just felt that it was and the thing is, it's not that it's a bad Denzel Washington film, because it is a typical okay kind of thing you come to expect from Denzel Washington now, which is why it is a disappointing Denzel Washington film. But the thing with it is that it's even more disappointing and actually annoying is how they've treated the character of Robert McCall from the series. It's nothing like the character at all. There's nothing taken from the series from the 90s, which I grew up watching, and been put into this film for that character. They've just gone completely... It is literally like they've gone... Someone's written a script, and they've gone, oh, you know what, we'll call that character Robert McCall and we'll call it The Equalizer. That's basically what they've done. It doesn't suit it, and I was really kind of miffed about that. At number 2 is a new entry for Dracula Untold.
Yeah, considering that it's from a first-time director in Gary Shaw, he hasn't made a film prior to Dracula Untold. He's done a short film, but that's about it. And it stars Luke Evans as the character of Vlad the Impaler, and then it ultimately turns into Dracula. It's not as bad as people might expect it. It is still over-the-top CGI fest. And there were times where you're thinking, oh, please don't go down the Mummy route or that kind of hyper CGI movie route. And it doesn't do that, which is a good thing. It's nowhere near as say, groundbreaking as something like Iron Man, because this is trying to set up Universal's monster series. But it's definitely not as bad as you think. But please stick your fingers in your ears when you hear Dominic Cooper speak, because his accent is horrendous.
And so that means that the new entry at number 1, which surprisingly taking 4,100,000 in its first week for a rated 18 movie, is Gone Girl.
Yeah, and by the looks of things also, it might stay there for a second week in a row, because early indications are showing that it's taken around about 2.8 million over the weekend. So it might steer there. It's going to have a bit of a challenge against two of the films that we're going to review, but it might steer there. And if that's the case, it'll be the first time in a very long time an 18-rated film has steered at number 1 for 2 weeks in a row. Gone Girl, I think it suffers from exactly the same problem as David Fincher's previous film, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, in the fact that he doesn't know how to end it. It feels like the film itself is overly too long. 20-25 minutes could have easily been cut out of the movie, and he could have ended at a specific point where he didn't. It's still a brilliantly twisted, dark movie that reminds me a lot of films like Fargo, mixed in with what Fincher is brilliant, what he's really good at. But I think it's just too long.
I don't think that it's too long, but I do think that, and this is down to, apparently, because the adaptation of it, I don't know the book, but my other half told me, and I said this already, but my other half said that it's a very faithful adaptation of the book. It's written by the book writer who wrote the script, and I think the problem with it is that the structure of it, for me, may work in the book, but doesn't entirely work in the film, because it's not chronological, and I think that it kind of tips its hat a bit too early in the film for certain twists and things that happen in it. I think they should have been held out a bit more longer than they were, considering its running time. And I thought it was kind of that it felt as if it kind of felt like it was getting so far, and it thought, I don't feel like I have to keep this up. I'm going to tell you now what happened, and then twist things around. And it kind of felt like it was being a little bit lazier than it should have been. But I really like it. I really love it, and I am a fan of David Fincher, so I really was blown away by it.
What I love is the fact that the trailer does not give away the last half of the film. Like a lot of trailers seem to be doing, they seem to be showing practically the entire film in its 2.5 minute trailer. In this case, it's not. And when you do see the last half of the movie, you'll not expect it, which is brilliant to see in a film these days. It's nice to be completely surprised. And oh my God, I was surprised.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that, because please do not read anything to do with not the last third, the last, I would say, at least hour and 20 minutes of the film itself, because that's when it takes a really dark turn, and I think that's where Fincher hits the nail on the head with the film.
I think I'd actually even go as far as to say this is one of those films where rarely you can watch the trailer to see if you want to see the film or not, and then it won't be spoiled for you.
Exactly.
So that's the UK box office top 10. Let's get going, because we've got now 6 films to go through. So we'll get quickly on to our first review,
which is The Maze Runner. It's directed by Wes Bell, and it's another one of these post-apocalyptic teen movies. And in this case, it centres around, well, at the start of the film, we see somebody on a lift. We later find out it's the character of Thomas, who's played by Dylan O'Brien, and he's brought up into this huge, massive area where around about 60 boys are living. They've been living there for the past 3 years, and he can't remember anything at all. Nobody can remember anything when they're brought up into the area where they're at. All he can see in front of him, apart from the rest of the people who gather around this elevator, is just huge, massive, giant walls. And so he's wondering what is going on. He's then thrown into a cage, and just to try and bring back a few memories, including his name, which, like I said, he discovers a little bit later on in the film. And he gets help from one of the boys in this camp. Here's a clip.
Please don't. My name is Albie. Can you tell me anything about yourself, who you are?
What is this place?
Let me show you. Hope you're not afraid of heights. Let's go. Come on. This is all we got. What's up there? We only have 3 rules. First, do your part. Second, never harm another glider. Most importantly, never go beyond those walls.
So we discover where the area that they're living in is called the Glade. They get sent supplies every now and again, but they have to fend for themselves. They have to live off the land, building their own huts, and they've got a hierarchy of people in this place, people to make decisions for them, including the character who's played by Will Poulter. You also heard in the clip there, he's told not to go beyond or into the maze, which is this huge, massive thing where big, huge, massive concrete doors separate themselves off from what's inside the maze to their protective area. Every day, a small little group of them are sent out, known as the runners, to try and map out the maze to ultimately find an exit to it. However, there is something sinister, something dark that's hiding in the maze, which seems to be killing some of the runners and ultimately dropping their numbers down. Thrown into the mix, a girl is sent up into this group, the first girl of the kind, with a note in her hand saying, "This is the last person," and so that ultimately makes them want to try and find their way out of the maze more so. Now, the thing with the Maze Runner is, it is another one of these teen, sort of like dark, post-apocalyptic movies, very much like Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, and The Hunger Games, and Divergent, and it's just because of the fact that you can look at Twilight for a resurgence in this teen fiction movies. That did brilliant at the box office, and so it brought ahead with things like The Hunger Games, and they do have an audience for people to go and see, and they're sort of like these kind of movies which push the boundaries when it comes to the age certificates. It's a perfect example with The Maze Runner, because something like 48 seconds is being cut from it. From
as well
to
as,
make it,
I believe, things they did change things as well. They affected the sounds of things so they weren't quite as sort of impactful.
Yeah, and so it's a big chunk to cut out of a movie. They were actively working with the BBFC, the director and the company behind the film, were actively working with the BBFC to get the rating down, because when the film was first submitted to them, they initially said, no, we've got to rate it 15 because of some of the scenes. And so at least they actively work it. I recommend you go to the BBFC's website after you've seen the film, so stuff isn't spoiled, and read up on what has been taken out, because it's always a fascinating thing to see. And so we'll probably find an uncut version of it released on DVD, very much like The Hunger Games. So it is very much like that. It is a post-apocalyptic thing. It is something that's setting up. This is book 1 out of 5. Don't know whether there's going to be 5 films, but they did say that they're not going to split the last book into 2. So there will not be 6 if there is going to follow the books themselves. And so it's very predictable on that front. You can probably map out yourself how it plods along, how it goes along. But it's enjoyable for what it is. It's nowhere near as bad as Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, which, by the way, it was originally going to have a couple of more films, but now it's getting turned into a TV series. And so instead of them actually following on with the films in that series, that's going to live its run on TV, which is probably the smartest move for that series, because The Hunger Games and even Divergent.
To learn that.
Well, you'll be able to watch it on TV then, if that's the case, and so at least they'll be able to expand on the story a little bit better. Might make it a better TV series than a better film. So it is starting to become a bit more of a crowded area. But if you've got a few unique ideas in there, then you can stand out from the rest. This tries to have a few unique ideas, and it's got a few interesting ideas. I'm a tiny bit skeptical on how the sequel might do, whether it will actually go to 5 films. I doubt it'll actually go that far. But it's not bad for what it is. It reminded me a lot of Lord of the Flies, mixed with The Running Man, and a little bit of Battle Royale mixed in there. But it's not bad.
I really was surprised at just, first of all, how much it did get away with in ratings wise, because I thought it was quite not scary, but it was very quite tense in certain parts of it, and also quite sort of brutal in this whole thing of the society of it that it has there. But I found it really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I don't dislike the ending, but I did get to the end and then find that there were elements of the end that I was kind of like, wow, okay, that was a bit radically different than I was expecting it to ever go. But I like it, and I was with it all the way. There was no point in it that I thought that the pacing was off, that it was too slow or too fast, and I found it to be honestly quite an enjoyable. I still not sure that I'm not sure if I like it more, but I don't think I do than Divergent's been my favourite of these teen novel adaptations. But I thought it was really, really good, and I thought that, considering all the cast were young, that it did a really good job of getting solid performances from all of the cast. There wasn't anyone that I can think of in it that I thought, yeah, that was a bad performance, that was terrible. I thought they were all really good in it.
Yeah, I agree. Ward Horton, who plays John, he's not too bad. It's nice to maybe to have somebody in the form of like Will Poulter in there, somebody who we do know, just to ease them on a little bit, so it's not a cast of completely unknowns. They are very stereotypical characters, and so it's inevitable to have Will Poulter as more like the father figure of the group. Then you've got somebody who seems to be the leader, but always on the tiny little outskirts, making the decisions, but always seem to be overruled by Will Poulter's character. Because by the sounds of it, in the society where they're at, he's been there the longest. He might have been the first person sent up on the lift, because he's been there for 3 years, and so it's understandable that he is the father figure and is very sceptical about what's happened. But it is very predictable, but it's sort of like a nice predictable in a way.
Yeah, it's a good film though, and a lot more to it than you would think from the trailer alone.
Yeah.
Right, on to 71, which is directed by Jan Demange. It's a movie set in 1971, following the character of Gary Hook, who is a man who's in the army. He is played by Jack O'Connell, who at the start of the film, he is sort of going through basic training, just finished it. He's then told with the rest of his group that instead of being shipped out to somewhere like Germany that they were expecting to, because of the troubles on the rise in Belfast, they're being shipped over to Ireland to be there for sort of an emergency capacity. They are sort of sent over there, not quite sort of sure what to expect. Are shipped out with a lieutenant who's not really been there before, who's very inexperienced, and orders them not to take riot gear because they're going on a raid to a house with the local police to sort of support them and make sure that things don't get out of hand. Ultimately, they get there, it does get out of hand, and there's a bit of a riot, during which Hook is separated from the rest of the men and end up being left behind when they end up having to retreat. He finds himself then sort of left behind, trying to survive, being chased by radicals that are sort of leading into the whole thing of the IRA, as it's becoming known at that time, having been sort of different splinter groups, and finds himself sort of on the run in the streets when he runs into a young boy who is sort of knows the area and sort of asks him for help. Here's a clip.
Please don't bring them back here.
Stay quiet.
Andres? A soldier? A real soldier? Brilliant. What bar you seeing?
I don't know, I was in a school.
Was it McGarry? Paul Sparks? Hollywood?
I don't know, what are you doing out anyway? Get home.
No, I'm home. You lost? Come on, I take you back to your barracks. Come on, I'll take you to your barracks. It's up to you. What else are you going to do?
So, here's the thing with 71. I went into this having just seen the trailer, not sure entirely what to expect of it. I know obviously it's a British film, and it was going to be about this, but I didn't know if it was going to be focusing on him, focusing on the troubles, focusing on everything else, or different things, and it kind of does a lot of everything there. It focuses on the issues of the troubles, and as you have there the character of the young boy who is Irish, and it does at certain points mention the whole thing of the Protestants and that, and asking, he asks him, which are you this, and he basically says, I don't know. because he's not in there. He's not part of it. And you have this whole thing of then there's people that end up helping him that then they don't want to help him, but because they've already helped him now, they find themselves in a bind because if their friends find out, they'll be in trouble and that kind of thing. So it does focus a lot on that, and it's interesting that it's being set at that time. And it's also got then this other fringe elements that say there's people there that are shooting at people, there's people that are sort of setting bombs and stuff. So it's quite a good look back at that, but it is centred around this character of Hook, who is basically finds himself, man trapped behind enemy lines. And it's really well put together. It's really nicely written, and it's got some moments in it that kind of make you almost sympathise with. It makes you question things as to who you should be sympathising with, the quote-unquote bad guys or quote-unquote good guys. And some nice little bits in there that work. It's got a good performance in the centre of it with Jack O'Connell. This is the second film I've seen him in after Start Up, and it's not the same kind of thing, because it's not a typical same. Start Up was all about violence and having a lack of it. This is about basically a guy who's just on the run and trying to survive while everything else around him is, sort of trying to kill him or help him but doesn't want to. And it's surprisingly good quality direction on it. That it does have moments where it kind of has a bit rough around the edges of the camera work, because there's lots of running and jumping and that kind of things in it, and scenes in it that are very fast paced. But it's really quite well put together, and it's a 15. There are moments in it where it kind of pushes the boundaries of that with language to get towards an 18. But it's got some moments in it that genuinely kind of make you go, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
I'm really interested in seeing it. It's just my annoying cinema decided only to show it from this Friday, which, it's sort of understandable when it comes to distribution, but it means that when I do go to see it, I will not be in a cinema that's packed, because a lot of them will be going to see Turtles, and so that's a good thing for me. I'll be able to actually sit down and enjoy the film, unlike when I went to see Annabelle, because it was one of the worst screenings I've ever seen a film in. I like Jack O'Connell as well, because Startup is up there for me as one of the best British films of this year as well, and so I'm eager to actually see it. Yeah,
I mean, it has had a limited release, but it's had a better release than some films. I mean, there's another film that you're reviewing later on in the cinema section, which, but with the cinema that I travelled to see 71, is also showing that film, but they only showed it once at 11:40 on Friday night and Saturday night.
Which is very, very, very strange. But even though the distribution on this is very stagnated, it is still nice to see it getting 3 showings in my cinema, considering my cinema is one of the big central city cinemas, and so I'm happy that they're finally getting around to show it. It just would have been nice so I could see what I thought about it alongside your review. So I'm hoping that it's in the chart next week, so I can at least see what I thought about the film.
I hope that I hope it does well enough, because I think it should at least get in, maybe not the top 5 because it doesn't have that wide a release, but I hope it'll be in the top 10 to 5.
Well, 248,000 got Pride into number 10, so it might do. If it does around about that area, you can probably expect it to be on the chart next week. Well, the chart this week. Check mondaymovieshow.co.uk on Wednesday and you'll find out. Nice little plug there.
Yeah.
Up next, Annabelle. It is the spin-off from The Conjuring. If you watch The Conjuring, which is all about the Warrens and they're trying to help a family out, there is a scene where you see a doll being put into a case, and you see just a brief glimpse of why that doll is there. And that's how this film starts out. The Annabelle starts out where an interview was happening with a couple of girls who discovered this Annabelle doll, and then telling the story about how they managed to get hold of the doll. It's not a spoiler because it's in The Conjuring, and it's the opening of Annabelle, but that's the ending of the film. Because it shows, I hate films that do this. Show the ending of a movie at the start and then say, this is what happened. Don't do that. Just don't. So that's not a spoiler. I'll not tell you how the film exactly ends, but that is how it leads into that.
Your definition of spoiler may be different from other people's.
But it's not a spoiler. It's in The Conjuring, and it's right at the start of the film. So I wouldn't class that as a spoiler at all. If it is the ending, it's just them saying this is how we managed to get hold of the doll. And so, like I said, it centres around the doll of Annabelle, and specifically a couple in the form of Mia and John. They have just got a new child. They're living in a sort of like a suburban house, pretty nice house, as a matter of fact. He's a doctor. She has to stay home because she's had a few troubles with the birth of a baby, and so she has to rest. And she's given a very early wedding gift by her husband in the form of this really creepy doll, Annabelle. She's into very strange porcelain dolls, faces that are so realistic. The second you see it, alarm bells should start ringing, and you should think to yourself, yeah, this is more creepy rather than being a nice present. But ultimately she wants it, and so she enjoys the doll. And one night when they're sleeping, they hear a noise from their next door neighbours. Something's happened. So John goes in to investigate. He comes running out with lots of blood on his hand, and he tells Mia to ring the police. When she goes back into the house, the killers who managed to kill the people inside of the other house and the neighbour's house turn up inside their house wanting to get the baby. We find out in the middle of the movie it involves a cult. And so when they get killed, a little drop of blood manages to drop out from one of the killer's eyes into Annabelle, and so ultimately the doll is now possessed. And so bad things start to happen. They now have to move John and Mia into another house, and thinking, they've managed to actually outrun the evilness. They've gotten rid of Annabelle, the doll. They've managed to throw it in the bin. But when they get to this new house and they're unpacking boxes, they discover Annabelle has followed them, and they need help from a priest. Here's a clip.
John got rid of her.
Or tried to.
There she was at the bottom of one of our last boxes.
I still don't understand what the doll has to do with this supposed demon.
Demons can sometimes use objects as conduits to achieve their desired goal.
Their desired goal?
Our souls, John.
That's why it's after Leah. It wants her soul.
No. Demons can't just take souls, Mia. The soul needs to be offered to the demon before it can take it.
Well, I don't plan on offering my soul anytime soon.
The devil is the father of lies. Demons are his manipulators. No one ever plans to offer the soul.
How do we get rid of it?
I don't know.
And we also find out, as you heard in the clip there, this demon which has managed to possess Annabelle wants to possess the baby because it wants to be a real soul. Now, the thing with Annabelle is it's directed by John R. Leonetti, who worked alongside James Wan on The Conjuring. He's worked alongside James Wan on most of his films. He's the cinematographer. So it's another one of those instances where a cinematographer thinks they can direct a film, hint, Transcendence, and think that they can get the same kind of style as the film that they've been involved in. The problem with Annabelle is it plays more like a comedy rather than a horror, because of the fact that the Annabelle doll is so ridiculous that you're laughing at scenes that happen rather than being scared. A prime example is there's a scene in the trailer where you see a little girl in the room with Mia's baby. And all of a sudden she starts charging at the door, and as soon as the door gets pushed open, turns into a woman. That's supposed to be scary. That is more humorous rather than scary. It tries to do the very similar things of the quiet, bang, quiet, bang. So the usual stuff that we used to. It takes bits from Insidious. So a part in Insidious where people thought was ridiculous was when you saw Darth Maul, to be honest, in Insidious. It does that in Annabelle. You do see a devil character. There was one scene in the film where you see it actually crawling up the stairs and then it stops. Now, if you've watched a YouTube video of the cat that keeps on moving and stops as soon as its owner looks, and then moves away, and it's moved forward even more, and then when the owner looks back, it stopped again. That's exactly what this was like. That was the thing that went through my head. It was like that cat video that I saw on YouTube. The audience that I went to see it in were horrendous. There were people laughing. There were people going bang when the loud noises were happening to try and get some scares. There was popcorn and stuff getting thrown all over the place. People were talking. So It was a really bad screening, and the film itself was just boring. It was just ultimately boring. A movie I was actually sort of hoping it would have a feel of The Conjuring just felt more like a carry-on film at times rather than a horror film. It was just boring.
You like carry-on films?
I do like carry-on films, but this is like carry-on screaming made serious.
Okay, either way, I'm not going to watch it then.
It doesn't hold hope for when... last week I said there's going to be a Chucky/Annabelle crossover. Don Mancini wants to do that. Please don't, Don Mancini. Just don't.
Okay, I'm going to go on to The Rewrite, which is written and directed by Mark Lawrence, who has also worked before with Hugh Grant, who stars in this film. This time we have Hugh Grant playing Keith Michaels, who's a teacher, who is a screenwriter in Hollywood. He, some years previously, has had a big award thing where he won for an award for writing this big, successful film that everybody seems to love. Now he's in a slump, can't seem to find a job anywhere. He gets offered a job that his agent finds him of teaching in a middle-of-nowhere college, which is as far away from Hollywood as you really could get in the US, and decides to take it basically because he has no other choice and no other way of getting any money. When he gets there, he's been hired to teach a screenwriting class, which is something he doesn't believe can be done because he doesn't believe talent can be taught. He believes you either have it or you don't, and ends up sort of finding himself in all kinds of mixed and troubles, where usually it involves him doing things like starting sort of talking himself into trouble and then continuing to use his mouth as a shovel. Here's a clip.
Ultimately, amid all the cliché eulogies and insincere expressions of grief, he discovers one grandson who truly misses him. It could be very heartwarming.
I don't get this. Just like I didn't get it when you pitched it to me 6 months ago.
I did? Where was that?
At the Red Sunset premiere? Glad I left such an impression that night.
Oh, right. Sorry, yeah, I knew you. Sorry, yes. Yeah, you were between jobs and looking for a development position. So, bravo. No, it was a great night. Of course, there's no reason why it couldn't be a woman. You know, everyone loves Betty White.
Keith, we love you. We're huge fans. This is the studio that made your Paradise Misplaced 15 years ago when Jenny over here was just an embryo. It's a fun idea. It's just not for us.
We're looking more for edgy comedies with a kick-ass type woman.
Now, if you have something like that, we'd love to hear it.
So this is the thing with The Rewrite. It's mildly entertaining. It's not bad. It's the typical thing, though, of Hugh Grant doing the typical Hugh Grant thing that he does, of just being a guy who can just talk and get himself in trouble, and then starts to win people over because he starts to change his mind. And I'm sick of it, really. I'm sick of Hugh Grant's performances doing this. I want to see him do something different. Have Hugh Grant... You know what? We were talking about a piece of news just now that broke while we're doing the show, about Dave Bautista potentially being a Bond villain lackey in the next Bond film. I want to see Hugh Grant be the Bond villain. I want to see Hugh Grant be the full-on Bond bad guy. I'm sick of seeing him in these roles where he's just playing the same thing over and over again. He's basically like the British Woody Allen on film. He's that just annoying. And the thing is, I don't hate this film. I don't hate him in this film. I was just tired of seeing him in this role. It literally was like moments that I was going, yeah, I've seen this performance before, seen this performance before, seen this bit in other films before. I've seen most of the plot before in another film called Renaissance Man, which was done about 12 or 13 years ago with Danny DeVito only teaching at an army base instead of teaching at a college. And it really does bring nothing new to it. You have this whole thing as well with Marissa Tomei, who plays a mature student there, who he starts to then have this weird relationship with and friendship with, even though he's having a sexual relationship with a student who's far too young for him, and is inappropriate, and yet he doesn't realise that it's inappropriate until it's too late. And then it kind of has these moments where it's trying to be funny and charming, but it has sort of raised sort of concerns about the character, and you kind of get to a point where you're going, yeah, I don't mind the character, but I don't care what he does now because I just am sick of seeing him do this. And as I said, I don't hate the movie. I don't hate Hugh Grant in this movie. I just hate Hugh Grant doing this again and again and again, and trying to say that it's something new and fresh when it's not. It's the same thing tired over and over again. And just do something different, for goodness sake.
Yeah, but Bond villain?
Yeah. I'd like to see him be a full-on bad guy.
Well, you know what happened with Hugh Grant when he tried something different? He did the film Extreme Measures.
Yeah, but even that wasn't him trying to do something different. He still played the same role he did in that. It was in a thriller instead of a romantic drama. But they cast Hugh Grant. He was a producer on it and involved in it, and he just did the same performance. He was playing the same guy who was caught in the middle of something and was like, I guess, yeah. It's just so melancholy, his performance in everything he does now. I want to see him take on something that's really meaty, because he can act. There's nothing against him as an actor. Just his range on film is, quite frankly, pathetic.
Okay, then, I guess that Andrew's not a big fan of Hugh Grant's acting career. Choices.
Of his career.
Choices.
Yes, choices. That's it, exactly. I hate his choices. I don't hate him or his acting. I just hate his repetitive choices.
Okay, then. We better get on to the final film, and then it's The Calling. It's a movie that's been getting a very small, limited release. Well, my final film. Yeah. Technically, the final film, because the next film that Andrew is going to quickly review, and I mean quickly review, is not officially out in the UK until a couple of weeks' time. It's just Scotland, for some reason, is showing it. Don't know why. Disney made a deal with Scotland. But this is The Calling. It's directed by Jason Stone. It stars Susan Sarandon, who plays Hazel Metcalf, and she lives in a small little town in Ontario with their elderly mother, who's played by Topher Grace. She's a police officer. Very little happens at all in this town. She is called out to check on one of the elderly people who live here, discovers the body of the person sitting in a chair. The face has been manipulated in some way, shape or form, and ultimately, when investigating it, she discovers this has happened to more bodies, that their face has been manipulated into different forms, trying to piece together, because maybe it looks like they're seeing something when they look back over all the footage of them being, when it's put together. It is trying to discover to seeing something, and they find out it is Latin with the help of one of Hazel's partners who she's working with, who's played by Topher Grace, who plays Ben Wingate, a character who has come from sort of like he was a police officer in a bigger place, but they found out that he was in a same-sex relationship, and they couldn't handle it, and so he decides to move into this town, and so they investigate it. They need the help from a priest who's played by Donald Sutherland, ultimately to try and discover what is happening. The thing with The Calling is, I felt it played out more like if Angela Lansbury was doing a Scooby-Doo episode. It felt very much like that. It's very TV-friendly, this film. It's not... I can see why it's been given a very limited release, because it doesn't suit the big screen at all. It's very small screen. It is Murder, She Wrote with a bit more murder, and a little bit less of seeing Angela Lansbury's character, Jessica Fletcher, shining a torch and typing on a typewriter. It's very much like that. It's if they moved that programme to a 9 p.m. slot. Because that's how it plays out. Now, that's not a bad thing, because Susan Sarandon is actually not too bad in the film itself. Ellen Burstyn, who plays her mother, when Ellen Burstyn is on screen, she sort of like takes the limelight away from other people. And so she is really good as the mother of Susan Sarandon's character, and you believe that. And Topher Grace also plays an interesting character. It would have been nice to see more about his past, but that's not what the film's about. It's ultimately trying to discover what this killer's motives is, and who this killer is. And so it is a by-the-numbers TV movie, which is okay for what it is.
Okay. So the movie that has been released in Scotland this week, but not anywhere else in the UK for another 2 weeks, is Disney film Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. It is a film in the vein of the classic Disney films. It's a PG rating, and it has this centering around this family of you have the mother and father played by Jennifer Garner and Steve Carell, and you have the Alexander, who is essentially the sort of middle child of 4 children. He is played by Ed Oxenbould, who has a older brother and sister and a younger baby brother. And at the start of the film, we're introduced to him. He's having really quite a bad day. He ends up with gum stuck in his hair. He is having a birthday party tomorrow, which it turns out another kid who is so much more popular than him has invited everyone to a party at theirs that day instead. And things aren't really going so well for him, but it seems to be going well for everyone else in his family. And he's so upset that late that night, one night, he has a little sort of birthday sundae, which he puts a candle in, lights it, and makes a wish that he wishes everyone else in his family could experience just how bad his day was, so they would have an idea of how he felt. Here's a clip.
From page to screen. Movie.
Apologies, that is the wrong clip.
Emily, just a recommended dosage, please. That stuff's pretty strong.
Hi, guys.
Hey, there's Mama.
Where's my baby green?
Oh, well, things went a little awry today. Look who it is.
Hey, he's green.
I know.
What is this?
It's Barker. It's fine. How did it go? How's it reading?
It was awful. I think I pretty much flushed my career down the potty.
Why? What happened?
Never mind. Can I have the wipes?
Dad. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I told you this day was cursed.
Sorry.
All right.
Good luck, baby.
Oh, here you go.
Wait, Anthony. Please don't do it today. You're gonna fail.
Alexander, give your brother some space, please.
Yeah, the next time you see this face, it's going to be in my driver's license.
It's not coming off.
Just hurry up. I need to get to my play.
What kind of a person?
It's not poisonous. I don't think it's poisonous.
So you have this thing that is basically it's like those kids' films of Disney's, things like the computer wore tennis shoes that they did in the 70s and 80s. And the thing is, by those standards, it's not bad. By today's standards, though, it's not really hitting the right marks it needs to. It has this thing that it's got moments in it where it's trying to be funny and it barely makes a laugh. It does have some laughs in it. I'm not saying it's completely devoid of that, but it's a bit more it's a bit more miss than hit. And it's not down to any problem with it, with the whole thing of it being a kid actor that's the main thing. It actually, I think, is below the sort of level that you would expect from Steve Carell playing the father, because he plays it a bit more straight than he should normally comedies, and he can play sort of straight and play comedy, but he doesn't seem to be trying to get the laughs in this one as much. I think the problem is that it is just basically restraining itself too much, and I'm surprised to say that, because I'm all for more restraint when it comes to comedies, because you get too many that do too much gross out things and stuff in it. And the thing is, this is a PG because it has no gross out comedy. It has nothing that's edgy. It's doing that Disney thing, like you said about Dolphin Tale, that it's trying to be a film that is being funny, but without it doesn't want to upset anyone or insult anyone or risk anything. So it's because of the fact it's playing it so safe that it's one of these kids films that is more aimed at kids and not adults. I saw this with a screen which had a whole lot of families with adults and kids, who incidentally on the same day I saw another film which is on previews this week and comes out next week officially, which had a lot more parents with loads of kids in it. And this, I would say it kept the kids' attentions. It wasn't a film where the kids were running around. They said it, they watched it, they laughed a lot more at the jokes than I did and the adults that were there with. And it's okay, but it's very playing it safe.
See, the thing what I'm wondering is, why has it been released in Scotland 2 weeks before it gets released in the UK, the rest of the UK, considering that the week before it you've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which kids are going to flock to go and see that, and the week it's released, it's going up against the Book of Life. So which one do you think kids are going to want to go and see more so? This, Alexandria and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Deer, or something like The Book of Life, which is an animated film.
I don't get why. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, I'm not sure if it is, there may be holidays this week in Scotland and not in England, because I know there are differences, but I don't know if it is. But it does seem odd, and I don't get it either. But I mean, it did have an audience there. It wasn't empty when I saw it, and so it is getting some people seeing it. But I don't understand either why it's really been released this early as well.
That's because the only film for it to go up against, which might be in a similar age bracket, is The Maze Runner. That's the only film that's going up against this week in Scotland. And
okay,
so...
Well, we've just been told in the chat, actually, my other half's there, she says it is because it's school holidays week, so that's probably why then. They're
2
trying
weeks?
to take advantage of that. No idea, but I mean, that's probably why as well, Turtles is getting an early week as well.
Well, Turtles got previews here as well. This has not got previews anywhere else. It's not previewed in the rest of the UK. It's only been properly released in Scotland for 2 weeks. It just... these stagnant releases are very strange to me. It's understandable if it is Scottish films, which there's a film... I'm not going to announce the name of it because it's my TV movie of the week and I don't want to give it away. But that film itself was released in Scotland first, and it's understandable when it is movies that are made in Scotland and aimed Taylor at a Scottish audience. It just seems... Yeah, it just seems very strange. Not Trainspotting's not my TV movie of the week. No. It just seems very strange that a movie which is made by a big company like Disney is getting released in somewhere like Scotland 2 weeks before it gets released in the rest of the UK. It just feels really weird. No offence to people in Scotland, but it's just a strange release.
Yeah, it's an odd one, but I don't get why. But I'm guessing it is the holidays, and I guess maybe they're trying to take note of regional variations so they can try and get the biggest, ticket draw with it.
It can't be them garnering the audience neither to find out how well the film's going to do, because it's not going to take in a lot of money for it to find its way anywhere near the top end of the chart next week on Wednesday. So
I guess we'll see if it makes it into the chart next week when we get that next Wednesday. So we'll wait till then, I guess.
Yep.
That's it for this week's cinema section. Hang around for a moment. You'll get to hear the ad, which I started to play accidentally earlier. And then after that, we'll be back with this week's home release section.
From page to screen.
So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look. But sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas now, that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting, about the writing. That's really what theatre is. For me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. Everybody's like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
Right, welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show. We're now into the home release section of the show where we're looking at these films.
We have the latest Tom Cruise big budget film directed by I forgot his name, Wiseman. No, not Wiseman. I forgot his name as well.
Look at your notes.
The guy who did the first Bourne film.
Look at your notes.
I don't have my notes there.
Why? You're reviewing the film, so you should have your notes.
Because I didn't have it. Doug Liman, yes, that's it. How can I forget Doug Liman's name? That's terrible. Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, as it's been released here. We have possibly one of considered to be a very, very terrible film. We'll find out when Stuart reviews it. Grace of Monaco.
I'm the right person to review it, then aren't I?
Yep. We have, I've got kind of just as bad option then after that, because I've got the Other Woman. And then you have Open Grave, we have a documentary with Road, and we have a small film called Kite.
And if I can manage to get to the end of the show without choking there, because I've got a bit of a sore throat, we'll also look at our TV movie of the week and movie of the week. But let's kick things off with the Blu-ray and DVD top 10. And the number 10 is Bad Neighbours.
Which I have to admit, I liked it more than I wanted to. And let me explain that, because I basically liked it, but it doesn't have anything original new to it apart from switching the lead actors' sort of roles that they could play to play opposites. And it has laughs in it, but the trailer ruins most of them, and it just kind of... there's moments in it where it just goes, it kind of steps over the line, I think, of what works and what doesn't, and there's a lot of it that kind of falls flat.
At number 9, the most expensive animated movie ever made, Tangled.
Really?
That is the truth. It is the most expensive animated film ever made.
Okay, wasn't aware of that. It kind of is, well, a bit of a disappointing thing, because it's good, but I don't think it's that good. But it's a really, really good animation. It's a nice twist on the whole Rapunzel story, and it's a good Disney film that has the animation and has some songs in it as well. And when I saw it, I haven't seen it for a while, but when I saw it, I was genuinely surprised at how much I did like it, and how much it doesn't have a big thing to it. It's just a Disney animated film.
Do you want to know the cost of Tangled?
Go on then, amaze me.
$260 million was the cost of Tangled. No, Tangled is the most expensive animated movie ever made.
That's like Avatar cost.
Yeah, it's more than Avatar. And it shocked me that, considering. At number 8 is The Jungle Book.
Another Disney one, because Disney has this buy one get one free offer at the moment. This is the classic one, which is getting now remade again into a I think it's being animated, or is it live action and motion capture, or is it, I'm not sure, but they're doing the animals and having the animals voiced as well.
I think, wasn't Danny Boyle going to be doing a Jungle Book film?
I think he's been connected with it at some point, but I don't think he's going to now after he was doing...
No, Jon Favreau. Well. Jon Favreau is the one who's doing it, and it's got Scarlett Johansson, Idris Elba, and Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray is voicing Baloo.
Yeah,
I'm actually kind of interested in that. Garfield is voicing Baloo the bear.
Yeah, okay then. And number 7 is The Little Mermaid.
Under the sea.
Please stop. At number 6 is And You Went Me for 24 Live Another Day.
We do movies here, we don't do TV, but I will say that I'm a fan of 24. I've watched it since it started, and I quite enjoyed this, as much as it is repetitive of everything else that's been done for the last so many years, but I liked it.
I haven't seen it, and I've seen all of 24, but I've not seen this.
The thing that was good about it is that it's not 24 episodes, it's only 13 episodes, so it doesn't stretch out everything twice as long as it needs to.
So it doesn't actually even split it properly in half to 12 episodes. It's 13 episodes, is it?
Well, it's 13. I think it's 13. It might be 12, but and the thing it does cover 24 hours, except that it covers sort of 11 and a half, 12 hours in one, and then in the last episode it gets to like 10 minutes left, and then goes 12 hours later.
Yeah, I was going to say in the 13th episode, does it just crop up and go bonus time? Where the hell did that come from?
There'd be one of these things that, as it goes along, just how many people he's killed along the way, and it's like, bonus levels reached, 50 men killed in one episode.
We've got to tell you this, and this, but we'll feature it in the bonus episode. At number 5,
there'll be a traitor somewhere,
probably. At number 5 is Sleeping Beauty,
which is again Disney's movie, but this is the one. Now, I think that we're getting, because we've had Maleficent, which was a retelling of this from the other side of it. I think they're doing it with the Dark Forest or something, aren't they? There's another one which I think is going to be connected to this. But Sleeping Beauty is the classic Disney. If you haven't seen them, you should, because they are great animations, and they're a lost art now because they're old style animations. We don't get these anymore. So it's good that they're around and people are getting them, because they should be.
Can I mention Studio Ghibli again, or am I not allowed?
Yeah, but Studio Ghibli's shutting down, so you don't get them anymore.
Yeah, no, but we've still got the Tale of Princess Kaguya to come. Which, please watch the trailer. I'm going to put it up on the site, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You need to watch the brand new trailer for the Tale of Princess Kaguya, because it is the most beautiful animated film, trailer-wise, I've ever seen. It is that jaw-dropping. At number 4 is something that's nowhere near jaw-dropping, 300 Rise of an Empire.
Yeah, it's pulse-dropping. It's that bad. It's so boring. It doesn't even get your pulse going when you see Ava Green naked in it.
Yeah, sex fight scene.
Yeah.
Lovely. At number 3 is the new entry for A Million Ways to Die in the West,
which is nowhere near as funny or intelligent as it thinks it is, and nowhere near as good as follow-up to Ted as it should be. And the thing is, well, there's some things in there that are really nicely done. There's some really good stuff in it, but it just then keeps going for bodily fluid humour and just gross out jokes. And I honestly think if they took all those out, I would love to see Seth MacFarlane do a serious Western thriller or something like that, and not do his typical comedy thing that he does. And he'd do something really well, but alas, we don't get that. We get this mess which basically comes out of a toilet half the time.
Ted 2 is next.
Yeah.
Just next year.
Ted 2, the humour fits that, but...
Yeah, we'll see. Number 2 is a new entry for Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
Nowhere near as funny as it should be. The animation is nowhere near as exciting as it could be. It's not bad, it's just very humdrum and very below the level that's become expected from animation movies as per the example set at number 1.
Which has been in the charts for 26 weeks. Half a year. Which is Frozen.
Yeah. And it's gone back up now to number 1. I mean, this is just going to be because of the fact that it's now included in the new Disney buy one get one free, so everyone's getting this finally that didn't have it. So that's why I bet half of all the Disney ones bought will have been this. And I mean, it's
Frozen. I wonder if I should buy it and I might keep there at number 1 next week because I don't own it. But I loved the film. It seemed slightly creepy when I went to see it at the cinema on my own. I just feel like it might be even more creepier me walking up to the counter with a copy of Frozen and buying it for myself. It'll seem like I'm going into a shop and buying pornography and just sliding it under into a black carrier bag or something like that, just walking out sinisterly from the Disney shop with a copy of Frozen in a carrier bag, trying to hide it from a Disney bag and sticking it in a brown paper bag or something.
I'm tempted to go into one of the shops that have Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Asda, other ones are available, and go into one of them and just for a laugh actually pick up all the copies of Frozen and stick them in a freezer.
Yeah, I think it's called Freezer in Lidl and Aldi. So with them being a small little shop that they are, so it's called Freezer in there and Frozen everywhere else.
Actually, that's a good point. Why don't places like Iceland and Farm Foods have it? Because they are freezer stores.
You never know. They might. They sell issues of Hello magazine, so they might have that stuff. Hello, Frozen, next to each other.
Let's move on.
Yep, first of the Blu-ray and DVD releases of this week.
Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, as it's been titled. Well, it's been boldly titled. If you see the poster on the front cover of this, you'll understand what I mean. It's based on a comic book called All You Need Is Kill, the original title of it. And it's by Doug Liman. It stars Tom Cruise as Cage, who is a man who is basically he's a major in the US Army who has never seen combat. He is kind of the PR express, so he goes around the country telling people about they have these new suits which are being used to fight an alien race which has crash landed on Earth and is basically very quickly advancing across Europe. He is there, sort of been shipped to the UK, which is sort of the front line of where the battle is. He is there with a bunch of soldiers, after having been sort of caught after trying to blackmail one of his superior officers to stop him from being sent to the front line to record the battle and sort of record this next wave of the battle, which is supposed to be sort of the human race's last sort of attack, which is going to take out the enemy. Unfortunately, when he gets sort of sent there, he's in a suit, he gets involved in a battle, he ends up getting killed, but then finds himself waking up immediately back at the barracks in the morning where he was and starting over again. And so finding himself there, he sort of finds he's living the same day over and over again, a la Groundhog Day. Here's a clip.
All right, let's go again.
You don't have time to think. Remember, it's not enough knowing where they're going to be. You have to know how to kill them.
Hold on. Listen.
Okay, do it.
Left. Keep your eyes open. Again.
Just wait. I think I'm okay.
And the adage of that being that the fact that now, because of something he's absorbed from the aliens, he now has the ability to reset the day. The only way he can do it, though, is in order to actually die to reset the day. So, here's the thing with All You Need Is Kill, or Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. It's a lot more fun than I ever expected it to be. It's also a lot more coherent for something that involves time travel. And I don't mean that because of the fact that it's confusing. It's not confusing, because it is confusing. But you're confused as much as the character is confused. And then once it's kind of explained, you understand what's going on. And I like that about it. I like the fact that it makes sense. It doesn't just kind of go, oh, we're resetting the day, and we're restarting. You're stuck in a time loop, and then goes, and either doesn't explain it or explains it too much, and you still end up more confused than when you started. It's fun. It's funny because it takes advantage of the whole thing of reliving the day over and over again, and the whole thing of dying repeatedly, and making it sort of this morbid humour about it. And it is Tom Cruise doing what Tom Cruise does well, in that he does bring his A game to it. He doesn't hold back. You have Emily Blunt in there, who you heard, who is a soldier who previously had the same ability as him, and sort of becomes aware of that and ends up becoming his sort of ally, the only person who he can sort of trust. And it's a really nicely put together film that does have some twists in it, has some nice things, but it basically is an adaptation of Groundhog Day meets Starship Troopers. And it's just as fun, just as crazy, and just as enjoyable.
I've seen it a couple of times, and I personally think the ending's a bit meh, considering that the film that what leads up to it, the ideas that's on display in the opener, the first, I would say 90 minutes or so. It's brimming with lots of inventive ideas, lots of smart twists and turns. Like you said, it's a very interesting film to keep you on your toes, which is what this kind of movie it should be like. Just the ending feels a bit like of a cop-out. Like the director couldn't think of how to fully tie it up, and he just went with a very simple trope. And if that's the main negative about the film, then you're going to be entertained at least for a good 90 minutes before you get to something that is a bit bad. And Tom Cruise, unlike with Hugh Grant, who seems to be picking the same bumbling character idea, Tom Cruise knows where he excels at. It's these kind of films where he's allowed to show his ability. He does it brilliantly in the Mission Impossible series, because at least he's allowed to stretch his wings out a little bit and show his acting premise. And so in this way, it's nice to actually see him do movies like this, because he's really good at it. And they all do seem to have different flavours to them, rather than being like Hugh Grant vanilla flavoured ice cream and it's just vanilla all the time. This is different kinds of chocolate ice cream or something like that. So it's a very entertaining science fiction thriller with little hints of dark comedy here and there. It's just the ending's very lacking.
Yeah, I mean, the ending does feel a bit like a Notes from the Office, Notes from the Studio rewrite, but I mean, it's things that it's kind of, I think that's partly down to the story and the way it's done, that it would have been a difficult ending to come up with, but it does feel as if it's been a bit sort of hacked up so that they can have a happy ending sort of thing. So
it's the kind of ending where you think that the people who came up with the ideas just didn't think of a way to actually... They were so intelligent with what they were creating, they wrote themselves into a corner so much they had to take the easiest exit to try and get out of there. And it is slightly annoying when that happens, because there are movies which have managed to be able to handle a complex film and still come out with a very interesting way to end it, i.e. Source Code. Even though its source code does still feel a little bit like of a cop-out at the ending, it's still interesting the way it's actually written. But it's still really enjoyable, though.
Yeah, it's actually one thing I would say. I really, really like it, and it's really enjoyable, but I did enjoy Oblivion more.
No, I enjoyed this more. It's just that I have more of a problem with Oblivion's ending than this one, because I think Oblivion's ending is terrible. It is really bad. The last 15 minutes of Oblivion is just rotten, whereas this one, it's just predictable. But that's just me. Next up, Grace of Monaco, directed by Olivia Dahan, who did the film La Vie en Rose, the Edith Piaf movie, which is very good. It's a French film set during the French Revolution, which has nothing to do with war or anything, even though there is this strange little scene in the movie. And it's the same way as Dahan actually likes to do his films. He says in interviews that he doesn't write his films or create his films for realism. He creates his films the way he sees them. So his movies are actually shot out of the eyes of him rather than out of what actually happens. So it's very strange. It stars Nicole Kidman, who plays Grace Kelly and ultimately becomes Grace of Monaco after she's married Tim Roth's character, Prince Rainier III. And they live in Monaco, and she's not liked by the people at all. She is just, she's hated by them. No matter what she does, she can't seem to bring them round to her. She can go to an abandoned hospital to say she wants it fixed up, but they will not believe her. Yet her husband, Prince Rainier, is trying to win this sort of like unwinnable battle against Charles de Gaulle, who's the president of France at the moment. And Monaco is such a small principality, such a small area, they can't handle the battle against France, because France hold all of their main amenities, all their electricity, all of their water comes through France to get to Monaco for the people to be able to live. And so he needs to try and find a way of keeping his power in Monaco, but also try to appease Charles de Gaulle, and ultimately affecting his relationship with his wife, who she wants to get back into acting. She's been offered a role in a film called Marnie, who is directed by Alfred Hitchcock. And she's reluctant to take it at first, but she really wants to go back to her love of this. It is affecting their marriage, though. Here's a clip.
A marriage in crisis. A princess far away from home faces challenges that are usually impossible to overcome.
Well, that's very reassuring, Count.
I'm a protocol expert, not a marriage counselor. But my duty is first and foremost to Monaco.
Well, the customs, the history, the protocol. I want to know it all.
You mean you're not familiar with them already?
Well, nobody gave me a handbook when I got married, Count. It's not just a question of knowing it. Well, really, I want to become it. Count, public opinion is completely against me. The people of Monaco don't see me as their princess. I made a commitment with the whole world watching, and for the sake of my children, I will not be called a failure.
Now, the thing with Grace of Monaco is that it got an absolute panning by critics. As a matter of fact, it was the opening film of Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, and it got hated by the screenings. A lot of critics walked out of the screening of it, and by the end of it, it got an absolute panning by most critics. They thought it was worse than Diana, which was released the year prior to that. And sometimes that can be justifiable with these kind of films. Sometimes it can be a bit harsh. There were one or two people standing up for the film, but when you watch it, you think to yourself, is it really going to be as bad as some people are saying it is? And yes, it is. It is really that bad, because it feels like the script is written by a 5-year-old. And not an intelligent 5-year-old, let's just say, a 5-year-old who is just finding their first words for the first time. It's really wooden. It's really badly wooden. Nicole Kidman tries her hardest with the role that she's given, with the script that she's given. But even her, I think, while she was reciting the lines and playing the character of Grace Kelly, she was looking at this and going, you can't be serious. This isn't what you're turning out as the final film. There must be some way you're going to piece this together to try and make a more coherent, intelligent film. And unfortunately, it feels like it's the stuff that was left on the cutting room floor. It'll be interesting to see what was cut away from the film, because it might have made more sense than this movie. It's badly acted. You've got Tim Roth there, who plays Princess Rainier, who's terrible in the film. Parker Posey, she's a very wooden actress as is. She's really bad in the film. You've also got Milo Ventimiglia, who plays sort of like a person who's trying to help Grace Kelly, who's sort of like a publicist, and he's bad. It's just the film itself. It feels like the director came up with an idea going, well, I've done a film. I want a holiday, but I've been nagged by the studio to create another movie. Let's just go and shoot a film in Monaco. I'll get a holiday. We'll get somebody like Nicole Kidman to star in it, and I'll just enjoy the time that I'm going to do it, and just make a film selfishly for himself. It's fine. Directors do that sometimes, make films, because they're trying to make a movie that they would love to make and not constrained by the studios, and make a love letter to that genre. Not fine when you've got a director just going, I want to make a movie because I want to go on holiday. It is a really, really, really bad film. It is in my top 10 worst films of the year. It is that bad. And Nicole Kidman, no wonder she hates being asked about this film in interviews. Even if I starred in it, I would just turn around at the start of the interview and say, don't ask me about the movie, because I'm not going to tell you, because it is that bad.
Sounds really bad then. If it's that bad and you're saying it, then yeah, I'm going to stay away from it. But it could be worse. It could be The Other Woman.
No, honestly, I don't see how it can be.
Well, The Other Woman is you can't see me, but I'm air quoting, comedy, directed by Nick Cassavetes. It stars Cameron Diaz as a character she's playing this lawyer who lives in New York in the city. She lives in a high-rise flat and she's very successful. She's seeing this man played by Nicolaj Coster-Waldau, who is everything's sort of fine with them, really, really sort of good relationship. Things seem to be going fine, and then he gets called back to his house because of a problem that's happened with something's flooded there. He has to go there, sort it out. She turns up to surprise him, not realising that it's where he actually lives with his wife, played by Leslie Mann, who then realises who she is, that she's the mistress of her husband, and ends up sort of befriending her, and they end up becoming sort of friends. And the problem is then that they sort of start looking into things and find out that there may actually be another woman involved. Here's a clip.
We think Mark has another mistress, and we're going to go find her.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And what exactly do you plan on doing if you find this girl?
It's a one-day-at-a-time operation, and today is the light recon day. Target is moving. Target is on the move.
Okay.
I can't believe you're not interested in this at all. She's getting up. Oh, my God.
What?
Do you think she had that made?
No, she didn't have that
really
made. When you have a body like that, everything fits you perfectly. I mean, she's like the perfect 10, lemon tart,
like
double D, obviously. You know what?
At some point you say, I play tennis,
you know
right?
What?
But if
How
I play against Ron
this?
McEnroe, then I expect to lose.
You know what?
Right?
I am McEnroe. What are you doing? Carly! I can't believe you. Oh, knew him.
He cheated on me too. He's I'm drunk.
So, this is a movie which has been kind of billed as a sort of female empowerment film, and the fact that these female characters then sort of get together and start to plan on a way they can get back on this cheating man. And the thing is that would be perfectly fine. It would be perfectly good as a drama. It would be perfectly good as a comedy if it were funny, if it wasn't so sad and horrible. And the thing is that really, really does not help it is that you have these three central characters of these women who are absolutely horrid and vapid and horrible characters, and none of them are real. They're just so absolutely horrible. They're so bad that you would not pee on them if they were on fire. It's that badly, horribly written characters that it's just cringe-inducingly bad. And there's dialogue in it which is terrible. There are jokes in it which aren't funny as usual, which start to go into the whole thing of it being, bodily fluids humour, jokes about people sort of serious things. I'm not really going into it now, but there's things in it that basically I was watching it and I was going, you're making a joke about that, and yet you have other things there which should have been funny and they didn't bother, and there's things there which aren't funny and they tried to make them funny, and it's just so misjudged and bad taste. And honestly, I would rather sort of watch someone vomit than actually watch this vomit, because it's terrible. It's awful. It's definitely going to be my worst films of the year. And that is the reason why Stuart has to watch it, so we can see if it's in our combined top worst films of the year.
If that's the case, then you've got to watch Grace of Monaco. I'll make a deal with you. I'll watch The Other Woman as long as you watch Grace of Monaco.
Okay, by the end of the year.
By the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't have to do it now.
No, you don't have to do it. Don't end the show right now when you have to go off and watch Grace of Monaco. But yeah, you go off. You watch Grace of Monaco by the end of the year, and I'll watch The Other Woman.
Then I'm pretty sure they'll both be in our top worst films of the year.
Yeah, because honestly,
it's just so horrible and vapid. Grace of Monaco sounds like it's just boring and badly written. This is just horrible and tasteless and just beyond reason. It really is. You kind of wonder, were there any women involved in it at all at any stage of the production other than just the actors?
I think it's just to get that Bechdel-Lewis test one, the one where is there like three women in it? Are they having a conversation? Are they having a conversation that doesn't involve men?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's the three women in it, and they're always having a conversation about men because that's all they talk about. Or they talk about the whole thing of this is nice, isn't it? And they're getting drunk, and it's just stereotypically bad. It's you can have a list of 100 stereotypes, and they would fit every single one of them.
Brilliant. Kat, in the live chat, you wanted to see Grace of Monaco. Let's hope it stays as wanted to see and not you are going to see.
If I have to watch it, she's watching it with me.
You're suffering with him. It'll be interesting to see what your thoughts are on it as well, considering you're more like me when it comes to films. You're very much like the horror person. We'll see. But that shouldn't tarnish it, but honestly, bad. Next up, Open Grave. It's directed by González López Gallego, whose last film was Apollo 18. He directed Apollo 18. So, yeah, he directed Apollo 18 with Timur Bekmambetov producing it, that horrendous found footage film set on the moon with rock creatures. This stars Sharlto Copley, and he plays a character who, at the start of the film, he wakes up inside of a huge, massive grave filled with bodies, dead bodies, hence the Open Grave title. He's rescued by somebody, he finds a gun in with the bodies, and he discovers this house. He creeps into the house and discovers that there's people in there. They pull up a gun against him, one of the characters played by Thomas Kretschmann, and they don't want him there. They don't know what his character is like. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody remembers their names. It's another case of amnesia, and you have to discover who they are, who is really an evil person, who is a good person, while also trying to survive against something that is outside. They're not Gribblies, they're not zombies of any kind. They're the people who have been experimented on with this thing that seemed to have killed practically the entire population of the human race, with a way of actually trying to prevent them from dying with this needle injection of some kind. There was going to be a clip which was supposed to explain the film a little bit more. The film itself it's shot quite nicely. It's got a very dark tone to it, a very dark, sharp tone to it, and Sharlto Copley does his best with the character that he's given. He always seems to have a very clueless look on his face. He plays along with the fact that he doesn't know who his character is. He doesn't know what he's there for. And so ultimately, by the looks of things, it would have been nice if he was given a script and very little backstory with his character. And he had to piece together his character along with you piecing together his character at the same time. And so it would have been interesting if they handled it that way, because it looks like that's the way it's done. And so you're trying to find out what his character is, along with the other ones in the film itself. And so it's nicely shot, but unfortunately it just gets bogged down to try with trying to be overly complicated. It's a very simple film, but it tries to go, oh, we'll go down this route, but let's take a left turn here before going back to it, just to make people go, what? A little bit, just feel slightly confused. And so when you ultimately find out why they're there and what's going on, you're You could have just told me that about 5 minutes into the film, and I still would have been slightly more interested in it, rather than you taking an hour and a half and doing what you did with Apollo 18. So it's not as bad as Apollo 18, but it is a film where you can definitely see it's gone direct to DVD because it would not have been able to handle itself on the big screen.
Okay, I'm going to go on to Road, which is a documentary that is, excuse me, it's directed by co-directors Michael Hewitt and Dermot Lavery. It is about racing and in particular the motorcycle racing that goes on, the likes of which we've seen Isle of Man in things like what was it, TT Max 3D?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, and it's more sort of the same kind of thing, but this time instead of focusing on the events that happen there, it's actually focusing on a family, and it's focusing on a family of racers that start out with going back some years to a man and his brother, and then one of those men's two sons, and it's an interesting thing because it's kind of I'm just going to say it there, it's not Senna, but it's probably the most Senna-like of all sort of racing documentaries that there have been, because it does focus on the racers more than the race and the way that they do things and why they do things and what there is that drives them, while also at the same time showing some of the things that happen and for a PG showing quite drastically some of the things that happen, so quite graphically. There's some genuine footage that's just been caught from there's one of a shot of a helicopter where it's on a roundabout and there's a whole bunch of racers going around it on a bike, and one of the bikes skids off and the guy comes off his bike, skids along the ground on himself, and ends up sort of crashing the body into a lamppost and hitting it quite severely, and so it doesn't sort of hold anything back from that. And that's the thing that I really do quite like about it, because of the fact that it's not that it's being graphic, it's the fact that it's not holding anything back, it's not hiding anything, it's showing the truth of it, kind of like the same way Saving Private Ryan shows the true horror of war, is that kind of thing. This shows the true consequences of racing and losing control and sort of crashing into things like that. It has true things that happen in it, and about there are deaths that happen. There are some interviews with people, sort of famous people like Murray Walker is in there as well, and it's got it has got a narration, which I don't know that's necessary, because the thing with Senna that was really interesting was the fact that all of the footage spoke for itself. It didn't have anyone narrating over it, which was very, very rare for a documentary. This time you have a narrator, and it's Liam Neeson. It is the man from Taken that is doing the narration. You can sort of get away from that in it, but it's very well handled, very well put together. It's very respectful as well in the way that it does that, and I was quite, well, not pleasantly surprised, but I was surprised by how solidly put together and how well it's put together. It's not brilliant. It's, as I say, it's more personable than TT3D to the Edge, but I liked it because of that. I liked it more because it was more about the people and less about the sport.
Oh well. Final film of the night. This, you can probably expect what you're going to get here, because it's normally where we
bargain basement.
Yeah, we reviewed the basement film. It's Kite. It's directed by Ralph Zimmern. It's based on the Yoshiomo Umetsu manga, because of the same name, which is highly regarded along with the other manga films. And so it's a case when you've got an anime/manga film turned into a live action one. You know what to expect there. It's happened with Fist of the North Star. That was originally a manga and turned into live action, and it bombed badly and it was horrendous. Blood the Last Vampire, the live action version of the manga, is horrible. And so you can probably guess where this is going with Kite. It stars India Elsie, who plays Sawa, and it's set in a corrupt society where society is completely broken down. You've got multiple crime factions just being able to do anything they want. Abandoned buildings, very much like Judge Dredd. You've got police who are trying to try and calm things down, but they can't actually do this. And it follows the character of Sawa, whose parents are killed. Her father was a police officer, and so she's hunting down the people who killed her parents. Premise as simple as that. You've got Samuel L. Jackson in the film, who plays Carl, who's sort of like a helper to Sauer. I don't know why the movie is called Kite, considering that the lead character in both the manga itself and the live action one is called Sauer. A Kite, I don't know where it comes from. And so the film itself is actually horrendous. It is really horrendous. What it tries to do exactly the same thing as they did with Blood the Last Vampire, the live action one. In that, to try and emphasise action set pieces, it slows the film down. And not in the point where you see maybe a bullet getting shot from a gun, and so you see a slow motion from a bullet, or anything like that. It just slows it down. So it looks like a bad guy is going up against another bad guy in slow motion. And so when you see those joke races, the din 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 thing, that's the lead up to action set pieces in the movie. The action set pieces are by the book, completely by the book. It's like a dot to dot where the only two numbers are 1 and 1. That's it. It's so straightforward. The dialogue is bad. The acting is horrendous. The main bad guys in the film are sort of like Indian characters who they've gotten people who are doing the worst Indian accent possible. They are so really bad. If I was that ethnic origin, I would just feel ashamed. I would sue the director if that was the case. Samuel L. Jackson is only in the film because I'm guessing he might be sleeping with the director's daughter or something, and he just felt sorry for him or something like that. They just came up with an idea and said, do you mind just doing this for a day? It's based on a manga, and I'm guessing he's either sleeping with the director's daughter or he's a fan of manga, and he's seen Kite and thinking, oh, it's a good idea for me to be in this. It's very much like Arena, when Samuel L. Jackson popped up in the Kalen Lutz action film Arena. It's like that. It's just, this is a really, really, really bad. That's it. That's all I have to say about the film. It's wrong. Right, TV movies of the week.
Do I do mine or do you want to do yours first?
Well, you had an encyclopedic list.
Yeah, well, I did get a few on there because I actually think the one you went for as well, but I won't do that because you can have that instead. Now I've got, there's two, but there's three because two are on the same night at the same time, so you've got to choose between them. Saturday the 18th of October at 9 p.m. on Film 4 you have The King's Speech. On Channel 4 you have Fast and Furious 5. So depends which one you're in the mood for. Good drama, King's Speech. Good action, and the best of the franchise, to be honest, Fast and Furious 5. And then Sunday the 19th of October at 10:05 p.m. There's a film that I really do find it quite a charming film, and it kind of holds a place in my heart for it. The Adjustment Bureau, because I just love the idea of it and how it works, and that universe, the whole thing of it, and I really, really like that. So there's my TV movies.
Yeah, mine. I'm technically going to have two because one is on tonight. So if you listen to this podcast-wise or download or anything like even on followingthenerd.com, thanks to Mark who's in the live chat, been through most of the show as well. So thank you to that. You'll have missed it, but it's on Channel 5 tonight at 11:05. One of the best British horror films, not of the last 10 years, just permanently, is The Descent. Neil Marshall's, I think Neil Marshall's best film, even though Dog Soldiers is brilliant. I think The Descent is a claustrophobic's nightmare. It gets the closed-in spaces and the horror so spot on. The scene that made me jump in the cinema still makes me jump now, even though I know when to expect it. That was the first time I actually jumped in the cinema. I'm not saying what scene it is, from a film, in quite a few years. And so it definitely deserves the plaudits that it gets. So the sequel is not as good, but it still has its moments. And my other film it's on Film 4 on Wednesday the 15th at 9 o'clock, The Angel Share. Now, I didn't watch this film for review. Andrew did it. He also reviewed it on DVD and Blu-ray. I watched it quite a way down the line. It was on Netflix, UK Netflix, and I just watched it because I was told it's a really good film. And I loved it. It's got its heart in the right place. The drama is spot on. The comedy is definitely spot on. And it's a really entertaining, very funny film.
Yeah, I can agree with that because I love it. I think it's brilliant, and it's one that you don't expect as well. It's quite sort of it's got a good drama element to it as well. It's not just a comedy.
Yeah, and it makes you want to try whiskey, to be honest.
No, it doesn't do that for me.
Not as much as the way they're addicted to whiskey in the film, but it just makes you go, I wouldn't mind a dram of it.
That's it. You want a film that's going to try and make you want to try something, because I never really used to like it, but you want a film that's going to try and make you watch wine, you need to see a film called Bottle Shock. If it's ever on, I shall watch out for it and announce it as my TV movie of the week, if that ever happens, because it's fantastic. It's got Bill Pullman in it and Alan Rickman, and it's brilliant, but it makes you want to drink wine.
That's a different kettle of fish. Right, before we disappear...
Well, it's different spirit.
Different bottle of wine. Before we disappear, what is your movie of the week?
I'm kind of torn between Maze Runner and 71. I really like Maze Runner, but I really like 71, but I can't decide between the two, so...
I'll make it easy for you. I'm going to say the Maze Runner.
Okay, well, in that case, I'll say 71.
Just because Annabelle was a letdown and the rest of the films were really bad. So, I would say the Maze Runner is my movie of the week and 71 Andrews. Right, that's it for this week's show. Make sure you check out the website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You'll have noticed more content going up on there because we're kindly being sent some posters and trailers and clips of films from some really nice companies. And it's the more content receives that way, we're picking and choosing for the kind of stuff that we're putting up on the site, which is understandable for now, but it's nice for us to actually receive those kind of resources. So you'll see more stuff going up on the site over the next, to the end of the year. So make sure you check out the website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can leave us feedback on our Spreaker page or email, mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com, Facebook, it's facebook.com/mondaymovieshow, or on Twitter, @mondaymovieshow. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, Andrew's at EHDVD. Make sure you also check out our few friends, Following the Nerds, Mark, who's in the live chat. I'm hoping that there's going to be a Following the Nerds show this week on Thursday. It's been absent for the last few weeks for just reason, but I'm hoping that there is going to be a show this Thursday. If there is, it's probably going to be the longest Following the Nerd in history, even though they have done a 24-hour marathon in the past. This is probably going to be the longest standard show they'll ever do. So make sure you check out that out at followingthenerd.com. You can also check out from page 2, the number 2, screen.com, and the Serum Foundation, which is serumfoundation.org.uk. So that's it for this week's show. We'll play you with a clip from The Judge, which is out this Friday, and we will be reviewing it on the show next week. So until then, there is a show. Thank you, Mark. There is a show this week. Hoping that there is a show this week, because it's going to be a nightmarishly long show. We will catch you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
The preliminary hearing set for next Friday. Wow. We're in a bit of a pickle.
It's pretty straightforward, CP. It was dark.
Hold up.
What'd you say your strong suit is? Old furniture or law? Quick.
Law.
Law school?
Yes.
Yes, you're familiar with the concept, or yes, you attended one?
Oh, we can't practice law without going to law school. Yeah, Valpo.
Ever defended in a jury trial?
Yes, I have.
Charge?
Assault.
Degree?
3rd.
Verdict?
It was a guilty verdict. Coach Blakely broke a clipboard over his quarterback's head during halftime at the homecoming game. Now, in his defense...
Now he gets one.
John Jr. had his helmet on.
He just keeps selling, doesn't he?
Sit down.